What is up, party people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila. This is JemilaBeReadin because I do be reading, and we're here. It's that time of year. June is almost over. The year is halfway through. How did we get here? I feel like I blinked and suddenly we were here. But it is the annual mid-year book freakout tag. We're gonna go through some questions. I'm gonna answer some questions. I'm gonna talk about some books. And I'll put the questions in the description if you want to do this yourself. It's a grand old time. This year so far, me and reading, we're kind of beefing. It's been such a, I don't know what to call it, a subpar year. I have not really been loving everything that I've been reading. I haven't been hating everything. It just feels, everything feels so middle of the road. I only have one 5-star book from this year so far, so that'll tell you how things are going. Anyways, enough of me rambling. Let's get into these questions. Starting off strong with my best or favorite book of the year. Like I said, I've only given one book, only one, 5 stars. But I am going to talk about 2 others that were like in that high 4 range that I still loved. But the only 5-star that I gave, I feel like this is probably not unexpected for anyone who knows my reading taste and what authors I love, but it is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This has been a long time coming. Many people were talking about this book, particularly at the height of the pandemic and in 2020, and everyone was like, Octavia knew, she predicted everything. And yeah, she knew, she did. This book came out like in the 90s, and has a foreword written by my other favorite author, N.K. Jemisin, which was really interesting to read. Yeah, I don't know, this was just like, so this was a lot. I feel like I'm still processing it to this day. I read this back in, I think it was March, and I just still don't know really what to say about this book. It was a lot, and it's so good. And I feel like I probably should have prepared something more, but I suppose, this will be in my favorites of the year video. So hopefully by then I will have something more coherent or smart to say about this book. But yeah, I don't know, Octavia Butler, I just feel like every time I pick up a book from her, it's just kind of like mind altering and kind of life changing. She was that kind of author, you know what I mean? And actually the day that I'm filming this, it's her birthday. My fellow Cancer queen. Love to see it. The other 2 books that I just wanted to quickly mention was Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. I finally got around to this. I feel like I'm like the last one to read this. But this is about a young girl named Jam, and she accidentally, I don't know if summons is the right word, but let's just, for the sake of this, she accidentally summons like this monster hunter situation. And she's living in a world that's kind of like a, what's the opposite of a dystopian? What is that word? Oh, my God. Anyway, she's living in a world that's like super peaceful. Everything is like good. Everything is right because, they had their war, they had their fights. People fought for things. And now they're living supposedly in a good world. But she accidentally summons a monster, and the monster is there to hunt another monster. God, am I okay? I feel like I don't know how to describe any of these books. Anyways, it's very good, and I hope to read Bitter, which is the prequel and about Jam's mother, soon. And another one that I just wanted to shout out was Sweet Vengeance by Viano Oniomo. This is kind of like I guess like a dark romance, also like a monster romance. It's about this woman named Joy who experienced R-word, SA, and She decides that she is going to summon a demon to help her get her revenge and basically the do, okay? Period. So she does. She summons this demon named Malachi. They do their little vengeance, perhaps fall in love in the process. And I absolutely love this. I love this so much. I think I talked about this in a wrap up. It's so good. All of you monster romance girlies, all of you dark romance girlies, pick this one up. And I really love the care that the author took with this story, considering it's like darker subject matter. And I love that Joy was able to just be angry and no one was trying to talk her out of this. And I love that for her. Next question is what is the best sequel that you've read so far this year? And I hate to break it to y'all, I am the queen of not finishing series, apparently. I used to be such a slut for a very long series, okay, growing up. And then something happened, something switched in my brain. And now the thought of finishing a series is like impending doom for me. I don't know why. I have so many just sitting here waiting for me to finish. And I just, I'm considering starting a series, like a vlogging series where it's like getting myself to finish series. But I don't know, is that something you guys would be interested in? It would also be probably spoilery because it's like sequels, right? It's in the middle of the series. Anyways, let me know about that. So I have not read a sequel so far this year, but I did read technically the second book in the like What a Match series by Mimi Grace. They're all standalones, but I'm gonna count it, whatever. It's called Take a Hike. I talked about it in a vlog that will link pop up here somewhere. But yeah, it was fun. It was a romance. I didn't love it as much as What a Match, but I did like it. So I don't know that this counted, but whatever. Next question is a new release you haven't read yet, but want to. And I have a couple. I picked specifically from my physical TBR. I was sent a couple of books, so I'm very excited to get to these. The first one is actually Page Boy by Elliot Page. This is his memoir. I've been so excited about this ever since he announced it. And oh, it also came with a little card, like a handwritten note by Elliot Page. I mean, okay, this isn't like personalized to me, but like whatever. Anyways, I was very excited to receive this from the publisher, and I'm not a big celebrity memoir person. I really don't give a fuck about celebrities' lives. I did really enjoy I'm Glad My Mom Died by Janae McCurdy, and I'm also very excited about this. So we'll have to see. Also, just like all of the like, I don't know, kind of like tea that's been coming out in the like prep or the marketing, I guess, for this book has been very interesting. So the next one that was also sent to me is A History of Burning, which this cover is so like eye-catching. I actually don't, I thought I knew what this was about, but I guess I didn't, because now I'm looking at the inside flap and none of this sounds familiar to me. But basically what it says: in 1898, Parbhai, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, a teenage boy looking for work is taken from his village in India to labor for the British on the East African Railway, far from home. He commits a brutal act in the name of survival that will haunt him and his family for years to come. So begins Janika Oza's masterful, richly told epic where the embers of this desperate act are fanned into flames over 4 generations, 4 continents throughout the 20th century. Ooh, sounds interesting. This kind of seems like family saga, which y'all know I love. It actually says, A History of Burning is an unforgettable tour de force, an intimate family saga of oh my God, do I know how to read? Complicity and resistance, about the stories we share, the ones that remain unspoken, and the eternal search for home. I mean, this sounds like a book meant for me. Let's see. Let's just take a look at the back and who. I actually don't know any of these people who actually blurbed it. I thought I would have saw someone, but anyways, there's that. And finally, the one that is obviously going to be the book this summer, book of the year. I meant to read this in May, and then I meant to read this in June, and that's just not happening. But I am going to read it soon because I want to be a part of the conversation. I want to read the book. So yeah, soon. The next question is, what is my most anticipated release of the second half of the year? Honestly, I have not been great about paying attention to like what even is coming out this year, but there is one that immediately came to mind, and that's Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. I'm so excited. I have not read all of Elizabeth Acevedo's books, but I did read Clap When You Land, and I really, really loved that book. And and this is also going to be another like family saga book with magical realism. Bitch, it's me. It's a book for me. She wrote it for me. Okay, so I am anticipating that is going to be in my top books of 2023. I sincerely hope so, because I'm really hyping this up in my head, but I'm so excited for this book. So, well, we'll have to wait and see. All right, time to talk a little bit about Duts. Next question is biggest disappointment so far this year. I have 3. And all 3 of these books, I believe I gave around a 3-star. And I've been thinking a lot about 3 stars as a rating because I feel like it does a lot of legwork and means so many different things for people. And for me, like 3 stars could they kind of fall into 3 different categories. I'm not going to go into that right now. That's not even what this video is about. But anyways, these are all books that I thought were like fine, but I was disappointed because I had like higher expectations going into them. The first one is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I really enjoy Silvia Moreno Garcia's works. I have yet to have a 5-star read from her. Oh my God, time out. I forgot that Silver Nitrate is also coming out later this year. So that is also something that I'm hotly anticipating. But I really enjoy Silvia Moreno Garcia's works. I read 5 of her books now. The majority have been somewhere in that 3.5 to like 4.5 range. They've all been kind of somewhere in there. I've not given a Silvia Moreno Garcia 5 stars. So I didn't go into this like thinking I was going to love it, but I thought I was going to enjoy it more than I did. And I just feel like for me, this was Silvia Moreno Garcia's weakest work. It felt so like rushed, and I feel like we didn't get a good feel of these characters and their interpersonal dynamics. And it felt like the characters were there to really serve like moral, thematic things that Silvia Moreno Garcia wanted to discuss, which is fine, obviously. But like, I just wanted a better balance of that, if that makes sense. And finally, I have to say, Happy Place. This is another one where, again, I was already like going into it with kind of mixed thoughts because I'd been hearing such a wide range of opinions. I didn't go into it with like super high expectations, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping, because I really enjoyed Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation. I really enjoyed those books. In fact, People We Meet on Vacation is like one of my favorite romances of all time, to be quite honest. So like, I'd enjoyed her most recent works. I gave Beach Read a 3 stars. So I was kind of like feeling like this one was going to solidify whether or not Emily Henry was like a favorite author. And it has not solidified because I gave Happy Place like 2.75, 3 stars. Like, it felt like, I feel like inevitably when you are an author and you're like kind of pumping out books every year, you're not gonna have hits all the time. They start to feel a little stale. You're not maybe putting as much effort as you could in the book and the plotting and the character work. So I don't know, it just felt like a rough draft. It didn't really feel like much to me. And I know there's a lot of people who love this book. They're screaming, crying, throwing up, sobbing. These characters really resonated with them, and that's great, but that didn't happen for me. That was not my experience. So it is what it is. Next question is biggest surprise. And I don't know, I didn't feel very surprised with the books that I read, but I guess I could say Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. I have been meaning to read this book for years. I have the ebook on my Kindle and I've had it on my Kindle for years. This one was like kind of like a more, not OG, but like one of the first like big queer YAs that got like really popular a few years ago. So obviously it's been on my radar this whole time and I've been wanting to read it, but just haven't gotten around to it. And now I just don't really read a lot of YA anymore. But I did pick this one up for the Trans Rights Readathon and I really enjoyed it, honestly. I had a really good time. It was kind of messy. I really liked Felix as a main character, and I don't know, I've mentioned this in like TikTok videos, and I think I probably mentioned it in some wrap up, but like it felt very teenagery in a good way. It just kind of reminded me of like being in high school, and it felt like, I don't know, I don't want to say age appropriate in a way that's like kind of moral panicky, but I just mean like sometimes it feels like a lot of YA feels catered towards like the adult audience that's reading YA and not towards the like intended demographic. So it feels a little bit more aged up, or the characters are just like not acting in a way that I feel like teenagers typically act. And I didn't feel that way about Felix Ever After. Like I felt like everyone felt real, like felt like real teenagers. They were messy in the way that teenagers are. And it was a good time, you know? Highly recommend. The next question is, who was my new favorite author? And I don't know that I have one so far this year. I haven't really read enough from a new author where I feel like they are now a new favorite. I will say Viano Oniomo is definitely on my radar now because I really like this book and I know that they have other books in their backlist, so I'm definitely going to check that out. Definitely an author that I'm keeping my eye out on. Rivers Solomon is definitely starting to solidify as a favorite author. I read a second book from this author, The Deep, recently, which I really enjoyed. And the first book that I read from them was Sorrowland, which was one of my favorites of last year. I really enjoyed that. This one I enjoyed a little bit less, but I still really enjoyed it. So I think once I read An Unkindness of Ghosts, that will kind of let me know like this is a new like all-time fave. But they're definitely up there. They're probably, I feel like they've entered auto-buy territory. Like if they came out with a new book, I would probably pick it up. So that's how I'm feeling. I am going to merge these next two questions because I'm talking about two characters in the same book and I kind of just want to talk about them at the same time. So the next two questions are newest fictional crush and newest fave character, and I'm back to talking about Sweet Vengeance. Okay, I said I was coming back. So newest favorite fictional crush definitely has to be Malachi. I don't know, I don't really like have like book boyfriends or whatever like all that much, but I really loved Malachi and I thought that he was a very unique hero in a story, especially because I feel like alpha males or just kind of like domineering men tend to be very popular in the romance genre, which if that is something that you enjoy, that's awesome for you. I really don't like it in books. It's really something that I don't vibe with, and it can kind of make me hate a book a little bit. You know, I love a little domineering, maybe like in the spicy scene, but like as a character trait, I don't really love that. And so I think what was so refreshing about Malachi in this book is that you have a character type that you would expect to be kind of dark and brooding and kind of alpha male-y, really strong and probably ancient because he's like a demon, right? But no, he is, first of all, like the same age as her, or like a little bit older, but like not like thousands of years old. Like he's a newer demon, so he's like in his 30s. So that was one thing. And two, he's like very naive and inexperienced. I don't remember the specifics of like how he was like created, but like he's kind of kind of newer to life and humanity. So he's just very naive about a lot of things. So it was like kind of nice to see Joy being the more experienced one in this relationship and having to teach him stuff. And I was like, I really like this dynamic. And then speaking of Joy, I just honestly, I loved her character so much. She was very witty, she was very strong, and she was allowed to be angry and allowed to be vulnerable, and he didn't like take advantage of that or like overstep. Because I feel like a lot of times too, like you have a situation in a lot of these dark romances where the female main character has gone through a lot of trauma or a lot of like SA, and then you have these domineering men who come in and kind of like cross boundaries when this person is already experiencing the lack of boundaries in like previous situations. And it's always so frustrating because I'm like, why is this okay when obviously the other stuff was not okay? Like this all just is not okay. Anyways, I loved it. She's a baddie, he's a baddie, they're all baddies. I'm pretty sure she's a bicon as well. I can't remember, maybe I'm making that up, but I loved both of them. Okay, the next question is a book that made you cry. And y'all know, first of all, I'm a Cancer, so you know, I'm an emotional girly. I cry easily. You know, I'm also a sympathetic crier. But this is the state of my reading, guys. I have not cried reading a book so far, okay? The one book that I'm going to talk about, like, it made me emotional. I teared up a little bit, but I didn't, like, cry. You know, it didn't, like, leave me, you know? But I did want to talk about Exit West, okay? This one came out a while ago. When did this come out? 2017. Yeah, this is an older one that's been on my radar for a while. It was a finalist for the Man Booker Prize. It was also selected as an Everybody Reads community reading project from my local library in 2018. But yeah, I picked this one up. As you can see, I did tab some things. I don't like really annotate, but sometimes I'll tab like lines. And I will say, and I talked about this too in my like reading until I find a 5-star read book. I talk about it a lot more in depth there so that you can check that out. But this one, I thought the writing was so beautiful. Like it's clear that Mohsen Hamid is like a really good writer. But at the same time, it was like very detached for my liking. So it's like I liked the writing and also didn't like the writing. I don't know if that makes sense, but it did make me emotional. Like considering the subject matter, it's like basically about immigration and the immigrant journey, and it's very sad at some parts and also very hopeful and like kind of funny at other parts too. I definitely would recommend checking this one out if you haven't already. Going in the opposite direction, a book that made you happy, and I'm going to talk about two. I'll briefly mention, since I already talked about this book, but Take a Hike by Mimi Grace. I just feel like Mimi Grace needs to like get popular. Like she needs to blow up. I don't understand why she isn't like super popular. I love her books a lot. They are just like the perfect rom-coms if you're looking for some like fun, like genuinely funny romantic comedy books that are relatively low stakes but still kind of like discusses, you know, like important themes and topics, but for the most part is like pretty low stakes. You have to check out Mimi Grace's books, especially What a Match, but I really enjoyed Take a Hike as well. And the other book that I wanted to mention was The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This is another rom-com about a woman named Lily who on a whim decides to message her favorite author. He wrote like this kind of one-off fantasy novel and then kind of like disappeared, but she was able to get in contact with him, and then they start like this online like emailing relationship over the course of a year, and they grew really close and I guess kind of fall in love with each other over email. Like the first third or maybe like the first 50 pages of this book are actually just all of their emails, so it's like partially epistolary, you know. And then he kind of ghosts her when they were planning on meeting up in person, and then she doesn't hear from him. And then we cut in. Lily is going to live with her sister temporarily while she figures out her housing situation. And guess who lives in the same building? It's the author. It's the author. She doesn't know he's the author, but that is him secretly because he uses a pen name. And then she kind of like ropes him into helping her find a date for her sister's wedding because everyone in her family is kind of on her back about not being in a relationship, I guess. So he helps her and at some point figures out that like that is the person that he'd been emailing with. And he's just like trying to figure out like how to like let her know about it and all that stuff. And they, you know, anyways, it was really fun. It was really cute. Loved it. Okay, the next book is a beautiful book that you bought, or the most beautiful book that you got this year. I'm gonna show two. I talked about this in my last video, which was a haul, which I'll also link if you wanna go watch it. But Dyscalculia, I don't know, something about this cover is just so gorgeous. And also like all the pink, I love it. I don't know if I would necessarily call this like beautiful. Maybe I would. But I picked up this book that I saw randomly at Barnes & Noble. It's called The Mountain in the Sea. And I just thought the cover was sick. Like, I was like, look at this giant ass octopus. Like, what is this? And then also it has like these edges. I don't know. I don't really even, I think there's a scientist and there's octopi. Is that the plural? And it's like a near future thriller. So I was like, that sounds very interesting and intriguing. Yeah. The final question, okay? The final question. What is a book that you need to read by the end of this year? And of course I have more than one, but the biggest one, the one that I'm truly embarrassed that I have not read yet. Actually, I have two, but this one takes precedent. It's gotta be Jade Legacy. I have been so afraid to finish off this series. It's been a year and a half since I read Jade War. And it's like, if I wait any longer, if I go past this year, I feel like I just need to reread from the beginning. Because I'm starting to lose some details. And I just don't want to do that. I need to finish it. But also look how fucking big this book is. Also, isn't this cool? This is the Lee McCrae like special edition of it. Nice. But yeah, you know, pray for me. The one that I'm also very embarrassed about, Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jassi. I read Homegoing in 2020. It was one of my favorite books of that year. Loved it. And I was so happy to find out that she was coming out with a new book later that year. And I didn't have to wait because Homegoing came out in 2016 and this came out in 2020. So I was itching. When I saw that this was a book of the month pick at the time, I knew that this was immediately the book that I was going to get. And I thought I was going to read it then. And then I didn't. And I think that was partially because I was scared that it wouldn't live up to like my hype because I loved Homegoing so much. And I was like, how is this going to compare to this book? I'm scared. I've since only heard like good things about this book, so I'm like pretty sure I'm going to like this. But I've just been so scared to pick it up. And I've just not gotten around to it. And I just need to. I have to. It's been 3 years. And lastly, Honey and Spice by Bolo Babalola. I just want to read this. I feel like everyone has read it. I want to read it now too. Also, love the cover. All right, that was everything in the mid-year book freakout tag. 3rd year down. I cannot believe that I've been on BookTube for 3 years. Have I been consistent in those 3 years? No. But I've been around, so there's that. I will hopefully see you guys soon in another video. If you would like to see other content from me, of course, follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm also on Twitter too, but I don't really post my own shit on there. So I guess follow me if you want, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Oh, if you've made it this far, tell me in the comments what your favorite book of the year so far is, because I need some 5-star recommendations. I'm desperate. Bye.